Well, good afternoon. If it's Monday afternoon, 3 o'clock Eastern time. Say Monday morning here. Monday afternoon, 3 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. It's Mondays with Michael live here on Facebook. Thank you so much for checking out today's session. If you're watching live, say hello in the room. If you're watching this post session on one of our social media platforms, thank you for checking us out. And please join us on social media. We're on LinkedIn. We're here on Facebook. We have a Twitter following. So please check us out. Lots of content we share, both here live and videotape. But we also share a lot of content with our newsletter, whatnot. I'm happy to subscribe to that also. Today's session is on generations in the workplace. This is the first time I'm doing a session on generations. We're pretty excited about sharing with you some information, some thoughts on generations in the workplace. We have a couple courses that we offer. One's in the classroom, one's online. I'll put some information in the message area here, wherever you're watching this, about one of our online programs that seem to be really popular, about teaching about the 4 generations in the workplace. And yes, there are 4 generations working in the workplace. But let me kind of set the stage for you a little bit, what we're going to talk about. So we can all agree that diversity in the workplace is good. I can't think of any of our clients that don't believe that diversity in the workplace is good. Diversity of thought, diversity of culture, diversity of work style. Yes, diversity of work style. So we do a lot of DISC training, as you know. And as part of our DISC training, at least in my DISC training, toward the end of the class, we talk about diversity, and I would say everyone that comes to one of our classes, for the most part, agrees that diversity in the workplace is good. And if you agree with that statement, then you have to agree that diversity of work style and diversity of generation is important to the team, to the workplace. And understanding the nuances of those 4 generations will help, just like understanding the 4 different DISC styles. The better you understand the nuances around each style, the more you can interact, communicate, be more productive with each of the 4 styles. Obviously knowing your style best, because that's where you are in the model, same with generation. So I'm going to give you a brief overview about the 4 generations, but the first part of this is agreeing that all those generations bring value in the workplace. They bring different value, but they all bring value in the workplace. So the first generation we're going to talk about real briefly is what we call the traditionalists. And these are folks that were born, in the 30s and the 40s. Most of these folks today, if they were in the workplace, it'd be late 60s, early 70s. Now you say, Michael, that's pretty old to be in the workplace, but believe it or not, there are folks in that age group still working. I was at a client today where at least one person in the organization is still working. It's close to 80. So they are still out there in the workplace. So what are some of the nuances around that? Well, they grew up in a time of economic and political uncertainty, right? Just, before World War II. And they clearly have defined roles. And a lot of these folks even have come out, at least in Northern Virginia, have come out of the military. So they're used to that hierarchical model of leadership within the organization. They're generally seen as dedicated, loyal, and long-term employees. So some things to think about, some tips in working with traditionalists: acknowledge their experience and dedication. Pay attention about the chain of command and how important that chain of command is to them in getting things done. A lot of these employees are long-term employees to the organization, so they'll share with you information about the history and legacy of the company. So these folks have a lot of that generational history. They like working on long-term projects and looking for bottom-line results. They have insight from years of experiences and acknowledge their respective rules and authority. But these are some things to stay away from. Stay away from these things when you say, or may say even in jest, when are you going to retire? They don't want to hear that. Anything around the grandpa, grandma thing, at least with this generation, is good. Other generations maybe, but not this one's. And of course, the ever one you don't want to say is, are you still here? Even in jest, those things probably shouldn't be said to traditionalists. So the second group is baby boomers. And we know a lot about baby boomers because yours truly is a baby boomer. So this is kind of like, this is where I fit into the model. So I understand this a little bit. So these are folks that are probably, somewhere late 50s to late 60s in the workplace. And a lot of these folks are still in the workplace. And a lot of these folks are still working because they like to work. They don't their sense of retirement isn't the same that my parents, the traditionalists, was in retirement. These folks still want to work. They want to be productive. So they grew up at a time of economic prosperity. A lot of these folks were 60s children. So a lot of change, a lot of progressive change in the United States, a lot of change within the family. Generally seen as optimistic, willing to work, and ensure their organizational success. So some tips. Again, acknowledge their experience and expertise in the workplace and their hard work, just like the traditionalists. Find a balance in communication. My generation still likes to talk to face to face to people. So, talk face to face to a baby boomer once in a while. Not that email isn't okay, not that texting isn't okay, but these folks really like to talk face to face. They can help you with some of the workplace politics, especially if they've been with the organization a while. They'll help you through some of those issues. Using them as a sounding board to test ideas, like the traditionalists, they have a lot of experience in the workplace. If not that workplace, other workplaces. So, definitely bounce some ideas off of them. Some things you want to avoid. Avoid saying they will do anything to get ahead, because we don't do everything to get ahead. And some people will call us workaholics. We're the 24/7, first group of the 24/7, work all day, work all night. Stay away from that. We actually prefer a little work-life balance too. May not show it all the time, but we do like work-life balance. The next group is Generation X. We know X, right? These are folks that are probably between the age of 35 and 55 in the workplace. They grew up in the shadow of the baby boomers. Some of these were latchkey kids because both parents were working at the time. Some of these went through, the downtrod of the late 70s when it came to the economy. They also went through Watergate, which is a big part of that generation. Non-trusting the government, if you will. They can be skeptical, but normally have a loyal and dedicated work ethic. So a couple of tips on working with Generation X. Acknowledge their expertise. Be clear and direct in your language. Avoid corporate jargon, buzzwords, and cliches. Find a communication balance. These folks like email, like texting, but not all the time. We're going to get to Generation Y and Z here, and they prefer that. But these folks will still like some face-to-face. They also need work-life balance. A lot of these folks are starting families, and they also like work-life balance. Stay away from things like calling them a slacker or lazy or poor work ethic. It's not true. Don't call them that. But again, this is a different step than the traditionalists and the baby boomers. And then last but not least, we have Generation Y, and even Generation Z. We're getting into that. These are folks that are between 20 and 35, 36 in the workplace. A lot of these folks are coming off a college campus, either with their four-year degree or their master's degree, right into the workplace. They will soon be the largest group in the workforce. As most folks retire on the other side of the work life or move on to do other things, this is going to be the bulk. These are the bulk of the workers that come moving forward. So they really embrace diversity. At least they say they embrace diversity. We'll see when they start working with traditionalists and boomers whether they really embrace diversity in age. But hopefully, right now they're really into diversity. They're obviously into technology. They'd rather talk on text than face-to-face. They do a lot of things online, so you have to be prepared for that, and you have to let people know that. So they're always open for new ways of working. They're always able to embrace new technologies. They really want to be asked for their opinion. They would really like to find a mentor in the organization. They always like feedback and timely feedback. Very important that you give Y and Z timely and often feedback. And again, you want to avoid the age-related questions and comments. Don't call them the new kid on the block. Don't call them the baby generations. Don't call them wet behind the ears. We've been doing it this way for the last 20 years. They don't want to hear those kind of things. They want to really get involved. So stay away from those, what I put in quote, baby jokes, if you will, with Generation Y and Z. So as a general rule, some tips for general rule: don't stereotype, don't ridicule, learn about the other generations and work with them, learn about how they communicate, the ways they like to communicate. Really spend some time with them, some time with the other generations, and learn about them, just like you would with DISC, So I see we're coming to the end of our session here. But I want to thank you for hanging out with me today. Generations in the Workplace. Our session next week is all about leadership. We're going to talk about the Work of Leaders DISC program. This is Mondays with Michael Live here on Facebook. Work with those generations in the workplace, and we'll see you next Monday. Have a great week.